الحمد لله. Is it also lagging on YouTube?
Doctor, can you hear me? It seems like we're on a delay with each other, right?
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you.
All right, let's try this one more time. Assalamu alaikum.
How are you doing?
Much better?
Yes, it is much better.
Alhamdulillah. All right.
Did you recite some Quran, Sheikh, or what?
Yes, yes. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, ISCJ community. We're sorry, we're about 6 minutes late. We apologize. Alhamdulillah, this is, the will of Allah, and, we're going to work through that. So we'll get started. There are some late breaking developments here. We want to make dua for Dr. Ahmed. Can you still hear me, or did I go on mute? I really don't know all this technical difference.
You just stopped for a second, and then you're just continuing right now.
Yeah. So I know people are jumped on thinking that they were going to hear Dr. Raymond and Dr. Ahmed. Well, Dr. Ahmed is still here, alhamdulillah. Dr. Raymond had a family matter that he had to attend to, so he apologizes, and I know he'll make that up to the community later at a later date. Dr. Raymond's always been a friend of ISCJ for many years. He's come on many times for different programs, and inshallah, we'll bring him on another time when it's more feasible for him right now. He just couldn't make it. So inshallah, before we get started with Dr. Ahmed, what I have to say is please make sure that you're helping out ISCJ, your community. Please, on the Zelle part, if you can do Zelle, donate via Zelle, that's even better because there's no transaction fees and we get to take advantage of that. If not, then please donate via credit card or mail in your check. Again, this is, you have heard me say one community, hashtag one community, 100% participation, and that's in every manner, right? Not just donations, but your duas, your smiles, and everything, right? There's so many attributes that make up a beautiful community like ISCJ in Central Jersey. So whatever you can do, please do that. And we know what you're capable of. Allah knows what you're capable of. Allah knows what you're capable of. So do what you can in any capacity. But we do need 100% participation, whatever that is. But we need everyone involved in supporting all your massages and ISCJ, inshallah. With that being said, a couple other things I do want to mention. I know that there's been some questions in different groups and emails that have come in. When is the start of Ramadan? As you know, the longtime ISCJ folks know that we follow the Fiqh Council of North America. That's been adopted, and that means that the first day of fasting will be next Friday, the 24th. And so just keep that in mind. We'll put all this on the website and the emails, inshallah. And then we also have a good lot. We're still in the finalizing stages of programming for Ramadan, but we're very excited. And I believe, inshallah, the community will be very happy with the final programming that we will present to the community during the blessed month of Ramadan. So just be on the lookout for that, inshallah. And tomorrow we have a great program. Same time, 8 p.m. Inshallah. We won't have the technical difficulties in the beginning. We will Quran night with our awesome Quran Academy, ISCJ Quran Academy. A great panel, a lineup put together by our wonderful Sheikh Ashur. I myself am looking forward to it. It's very exciting. We're going to hear the beautiful recitation of the Quran from different people. And also we'll hear some translations also. So looking forward to this. So that's tomorrow night. So make sure everyone knows that, and tell your friends and families too about that. We expect a large turnout for that. Back to Ramadan and the prayer timings. ISCJ will publish a calendar that you can print out at home. Obviously, you can't come to the masjid to pick up the calendar, but we'll put something, an easy one-page PDF where you can print it out or look on your device, and you'll know all the prayer times, when they come in, inshallah, for the month of Ramadan. And I still have one more announcement to make, actually, and this one's a good one too. Those that have been paying attention and talking to their masajid leaders, not just at ISCJ, is all the masajids have been talking regularly for the past 6 weeks in lieu of this COVID situation. But one of many benefits out of this collaboration and conversation with all the masajids is there's an opportunity for some joint programming in Ramadan too. So there is a consensus. Again, I'm not going to go into full details yet, right? Because but I'm comfortable saying that the 4 Ramadans, 1, 2, 3, 4 4 Saturdays. I meant to say 4 Saturdays in Ramadan. We're not going to count the last Saturday before Eid, inshallah, but the 4 Saturdays, every masjid will not do their own program. At 7 p.m., every masjid will share the same link, and you will hear from our community imams at 7 p.m. for about 30 to 40 minutes every Saturday in Ramadan, inshallah. So I won't say more than that because we still got to fine tune some of the details, but inshallah, that's going to happen. And I think that's really exciting to see the collaboration between the masajids with that. So I'll pause here. I've done a lot of talking here, and really people have joined here to hear from Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Raymond. Now, for those that joined a little bit late, also keep in mind that Dr. Raymond apologized. He had a family emergency that he had to tend to. One of his children got sick. So we're excusing him. And Dr. Ahmed, you're going to run the show here. So you're going to have to talk about boredom, stress, and me time.
Alhamdulillah. I think the last one is my favorite. Is it?
All right. So Dr. Ahmed, so let's just start with boredom here, right? I'm going to talk for myself here. Actually, in the spectrum of boredom, and there's different levels of boredom. I mean, are we truly bored? Are we not bored? And I've been listening to your Friday gems and Mercy in Disguise, and you talked about free time. Even we have free time, and we're taking advantage of reading more Quran, learning more, listening, doing tafsir, and all these other things. But there's still time gaps. Even no matter how busy you might be. Generally, I'm generalizing. Obviously, there's people that are genuinely busy all the time. But so, what can we do? To be productive and to maximize this time.
So it's kind of okay. So here's the thing. When it depends who this is coming from, but my reaction towards them is kind of interesting, or I kind of this is how I find myself reacting. If it's my kids, right, or younger ones, and they complaining about that they're bored, right. My first thing is is that a problem, right? Is being bored really a problem, or it's not? Because to be honest, if you want to think about it on the scale of all the problems that we have in our lives, is boredom really a problem, right? I remember when I was I don't know if you remember this or not, but I come from a place when I was younger, we only had 2 or 3 channels in TV, and those actually had air time. Literally the longest was for 16 hours, and then they shut off. They'll start at 9 o'clock in the morning, end at 9 o'clock in the evening. 1 or 2 channels, yes, there's nothing on them most of the time. No phones, no internet at that time, actually. A bunch of other things, and that concept of boredom, with all this entertainment, is kind of odd. But here's my thing. I'm going to ask you this, Sheikh. Is being bored a problem? Really, is it really a problem?
Honestly, if you ask me, it's a problem, but it's a first world problem. I like to describe it as a first world problem, right? This is alhamdulillah, Allah's blessed us living in our situation at this time where you're right. We have the internet, we have these other things, we have access to healthcare, food, everything, even in this situation right now. by the technical definition of a problem, is it a problem? But is it a real problem? No, it's a first world problem. That's the way I would say it.
So here's
it does need to be tackled, I would say.
Yes. So here's what it means, right? So being bored over here at the time that we're in essentially means that no one, or I should say more importantly, no device, is stimulating your mind, and you're free to come up with, or I guess you're forced to come up with your own entertainment, right? This is what it means. It means that whatever is from the outside that is keeping us occupied, right, entertained all the time, is not sufficing anymore, right? That there's so much of it that we're getting tired of it. But this is really what it means, right? Because now we're looking for the next thing that kind of attracts our attention. But this is this is a downside to this. It tells us that maybe we're not dealing with this in the best way possible. That maybe maybe utilizing this, that it's a time for us to come up with our own entertainment, right? Even come up with your entertainment while you're sitting there and contemplating what's happening. And it's kind of funny. I remember always this kind of thing, that children, for example, right? Why do they hate timeouts? Why do they hate timeouts?
Well, they're being told to do something that they don't want to do, right? They go and be isolated. Then they'll be bored.
Yes.
There'll be nothing to do.
Yes, exactly, right? This is what they hate. They hate boredom, right? This is what am I going to do, right? Because you're not going to let them play with their toys. They don't have access to screen time. This is a timeout. Sit in the corner, think about what you did, right? Few seconds later, what are they doing?
They're playing or doing something. They're fidgeting in the corner.
What are they playing with? The string on their shirt, right? just something.
They're pulling on it. They're pulling on it. They're chewing it.
They start playing with their fingers. They start doing things it's almost like in this entire new world, right? That is forcing them to use their imagination to come up with something that would make them be entertained, right? This is, to be honest, really what it is. It's just when we're bored, it might indicate a sign of a lack of us being able to engage ourselves, being able to be self-sufficient, self-dependent. But in reality, being bored means, yes, you have more time, right? To do whatever you want with it, right? To be creative, right? You can think about it, as you mentioned, you can engage, whether it's acts of worship, because in the end, on the Day of Judgment, we're going to regret every second that we did not utilize to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it meant it's an opportunity we lost to elevate in ranks, right? It's a lost opportunity, for example, to fulfill the rights, whether it's rights on ourselves, our bodies, or rights to our relatives, or rights once again to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it just even if it's as simple as an adult, it's an opportunity to kind of just sit there and clear your mind from the 7 million things that you occupy yourself with. The to-do list is not there. Just kind of sit there and just relax, right? So from my perspective, really boredom should translate to an opportunity, right? To do something. What that is really is up to you, to how creative you are, right? Literally, it's like an empty, a white canvas right in front of you, that you have the free time and opportunity to kind of put whatever you want on it. And so really, if you want suggestions to do what some of the things, what to do when you to stay away from boredom, you can be productive in so many different ways. If you want to keep it productive, right? The simplest things is the least thing, if you're just going to sit there and do nothing, is practice some sort of self-reflection, right? Introspection. Gauge yourself, where you are, how you're doing, things about a lot of things. This helps us kind of find ourselves. A lot of times, most of the times that we don't know, for example, when somebody tells you, what are your strong points? That happens a lot of time in an interview. A lot of times we're unable to answer them, or we answer in a very weird ways because we never really kind of self-reflected, right? Why are we what's our importance in a position or society, in a family, or whatever this is? Where are we, for example, in the eyesight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is all self-reflection, right? That's one thing you can do. If you really want to dive into overcoming the aspect, for example, Ramadan is just an example, because Ramadan is coming up. One of the things that a lot of people can't do is stand long enough in prayers because they don't seem to understand their recitation, right? Well, there's a great opportunity to start trying to understand and study the Quran, right? What does it mean? This in itself is an act of worship. This will create a beautiful, different dimension of when we're listening to the Quran, or even a different dimension of our relationship with the Quran, right? And subhanAllah has so many blessings, because the more time you spend in the Quran, that's more rewards. You're reciting it, you're understanding it, you're getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, all these blessings have to do with just you doing this. Like, you can figure out, play around with the different acts of worship, figure out which one you're more inclined to. A lot of people, for example, when you ask them what is your favorite type of worship, they might not know what it is. It's amazing, by the way, that naturally, as human beings, we're normally inclined to one thing or another, right? Including acts of worship. Right? This is why some, for example, scholars say that there's the door of fasting and the judgment, the door of prayers, the door of other stuff. We are inclined to be more engaged in one act of worship than another. For some people, it's volunteering, helping others. For some people, it's more of social work. For some people, it's seeking knowledge. Others, memorizing the Quran. Others, it's whatever the case is, right? Some it's prayer, some it's fasting, some it's just figure out, it's a good opportunity to kind of play around with them, dabble with them, right? You can start a project, right? Clean up in the house, right? Spring cleaning, right? Start a new project, like a backyard or your home. There's so many things we can use this, in a way that will be very productive, that in the end, we are actually not bored anymore, right? So this really has to do with the boredom aspect. And with the children, really, it's okay. They need to be comfortable with getting bored. It's not something that is bad, right? Yeah. It will force them to become creative. I've seen kids, subhanAllah, the minute you shut off, they're sitting in front of TV, they're zombies. The minute you shut off, they become these lively creatures. Right? They're just engaged in everything. And then after, of course, picking on each other for a little bit, they start creating these, they go into your recycling bin, and all of a sudden the small cans and the cardboards, they turn into little projects, right? This is good. This is stimulating the mind, which means also when you're not sitting in front of these devices, you're stimulating your intellect, right? Your cognitive behavior. And so this is just a quick thing about the boredom. I actually want to move on to the next thing. I think I'm just starting to.
Well, Dr. Ahmed, real quick because I want to make this a little bit interactive, and we'll come back. So don't lose your thought. I want you to continue. But for the audience here, I'm watching the chat here. So throw in your ideas and suggestions. How are some of you filling in the idle time? And Dr. Ahmed, I'm getting a lot of people putting posts up there, Sister Aisha saying is, what's funny is parents don't like being bored either. They need their screen time too, with an emoji, And then we have Brother Zain saying, you could have money and then you don't know how to spend it. That's not going to be a problem. So it's kind of fun.
It's true. Well, it's a beautiful thing. We don't realize that sometimes this free time that we have really is a blessing that is similar to money, right? And health. Right? Yeah. So this is the Prophet he had mentioned this. He's there's two blessings that most people are deceived in, and that is health and time, right? That free time. It is the same as that. And so you can have all the time in the world, but you don't have time to spend it, right? Or enjoy it even.
Yeah, exactly. So for the audience, why don't you guys share with us? Put it in the chat. What have you guys been doing since we've all been quarantined? Maybe we'll get some ideas that we can share with the community too. That, hey, wow, I didn't think about that. Maybe I can do this and fill my idle time this way for myself or with my family or with my children. So feel free, share that in the chat. All right, I'll come back to you, Dr. Ahmed, now.
So I think Sister Aisha mentioned something interesting. She's we as adults, as parents, we also need our screen time, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, Ya Sheikh Arif, why?
I think it's, for me, it has become an addiction, I think. I would be naive to say it wasn't. I try to put it away at a certain time at night, once we're done here, and then I'll put it away. But at some point when you wake up in the morning, you're tied to it, right? And I think, while in my mind I would like to justify that I need to be on it, I think the reality is I don't. It is an addiction. So that's a more clinical issue, I think, that needs to be resolved for me. Right? But there's just, whether it's work, whether it's professionally, or whether it's family, or whether it's the community stuff, everything is literally tied to this. You guys can't see it in the background here. By the way, if everyone likes the new background that I'm using on the Zoom, give a thumbs up in the chat. It's something new because I was bored today, so I was like, let me try to change my background on Zoom. I don't know, Dr. Ahmed. I think I am addicted. And I think I would say the majority of the people are addicted, in my personal opinion, and we don't even know it or realize it.
To be honest, that is true. We have a problem with that. And addiction can be very subtle, and there's a lot of signs with it. But I took Sister Aisha's as response in a different way, right? Um, I took it away over like I need my time as a break, I guess. That screen time as more of a break. This is how I took it, right?
It could be, yeah, you're right. Depending on the age of your kids, right?
Yeah. So for example, if you have younger kids, right, and they're always kind of like fighting for your attention, they always need to be like make sure you have a close eye on them, or else something would happen. Or they're always requesting things, especially if they're at home. Like mom, my sibling did this, or mom, I'm bored, entertain me, or dad, like be my gym, right? I need physical activity, or any of those things, right? I think I kind of took it from that point that Darsha was saying that we need our screen time, and it was just now. I guess this brings us to almost like the me time, right? I'm kind of skipping the part in the middle and jumping all the way to the me time, right? And this is, to be honest, I had this me time in there, part of the program, more for the adults, right? The young ones really don't have problems with me time because almost the whole time is their me time almost. Um, but as an adult, as parents, especially have younger children, this we have to realize that this is actually something that is important. We need to carve some time for ourselves because it's important for our sanity. It's important for our ability to carry on with our duties and our jobs. Um, it helps, like when you take care of yourself, it helps you to take care of others. Right? It helps you to reconnect with yourself, including actually even reconnecting with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala because you have that time for yourself. It is good for our mental stability. It's good for our stress levels. It's good for so many other things. And so we need to be able to carve that time from the day just to spend for ourselves. Now, I know that sometimes, like especially when we have infants, that becomes very difficult. So I guess you could always kind of start small in the beginning, right? Similar, how do we give kids time out? I think it's okay to give ourselves time out, right? Like banish ourselves to the room and for 10 minutes just to sit there, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? We can even do something like it cannot be. It should not maybe it's okay. It's not a pure time out as sit there do nothing, but it's okay to sit there just isolate yourself for 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes, and engage yourself with something that would preoccupy you, take your mind out of everything else, almost zone out for a little bit. This is really something that is positive. It helps us. And subhanAllah, by the way, our daily Islamic practices forces us to do that 5 times a day. Right? That entire prayer is you unplugging from the rest of the world, right? You taking your time out to focus on something else. But subhanAllah, sometimes even in that prayer, we bring our world back into that prayer. And rather than taking that time out, all of a sudden we realize that we finished the prayers in 2 minutes. Well, in reality, you can spend 5 minutes on it. But this is something that is our practices kind of forces that to some extent to kind of disconnect from the world, have our own time, reconnect with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, even ourselves. One of the other things we can do is kind of carve that me time, is maybe play some sort of a tag, team with our spouses, right? Tag your time to kind of for time out, right? Tag my time for me time, right? Because we have to understand that taking care of a family does require both spouses. They both have to carry the responsibility in this. And so it's okay if for example you need to tell your spouse, okay, I'm reaching to the edge, right? I need some time, give me 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I need a break, right? So that tag team's okay. And so you go in, you wrestle with the kids a little bit, tag in, the other person wrestles with the kids a little bit. But whatever the case is, this is something that is very beneficial. The other thing maybe we can do is to carve that me time is set a schedule, right? We have the habit of having a college schedule, school schedule, work schedule. Well, set up your schedule to have a me time, a break for yourself. That usually helps. If you're unable to do it, then schedule yourself to take a class, online class, a physical class, a exercise class, whatever the thing is. Just take some time. This is for you. You're doing something. You can pick up a sport, you can pick up a new skill, a new hobby, even Islamic education. This is awesome. These are awesome classes, right? This is something we can do. This is just for you, for yourself. So this is the kind of the side of the me time. To be honest, that sometimes we do neglect. I personally sometimes neglect that a lot. Even though, alhamdulillah, I do enjoy my work. I feel like I find myself in it. But even with the with the grinding of the entire thing, I find myself like it's midnight, and what did I do all day? I didn't do anything for myself. I need to kind of relax. So it does happen, but we have to remember that some people are more tolerant of it or tolerant in lacking that me time than others. But ultimately, we will need it, all of us at one point or another. So this is something that's important for us, inshallah.
And again, I know you know this is not necessarily in your expertise, right? Because that's what we were talking Dr. Raymond. But the part you mentioned about the me time, it got me thinking. Is there some element of patriarchal or matriarchal where that we don't even realize we need that me time, or is it you think it's probably the same?
Well, to be honest, times have changed a lot, ya Sheikh.
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, at least to some extent, I'd like to think, or I'd like to hope that families and spouses are equally comfortable to talk to each other and communicate with each other. Like this is what it really comes down to, that communication. It is really important to talk to each other about what's going on and to kind of put ourselves into the other person's shoes for a moment, to see what's going on. Right? Similar to how maybe, yes, it might be easier for us to kind of do things one way or another, but still, it's good to have that. This kind of my I guess my current situation of thinking about things, I guess. Could there be other cases to, yes, culture can have an effect. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Different cultures do things differently. But the best thing to do, to be honest, is kind of when this is happening and it's kind of having an effect, is to resort back to look at the Islamic teachings of doing things.
Yeah.
And so we have beautiful stories of how the Prophet ﷺ himself would take that time out from his busy schedule, and hands down, the Prophet ﷺ was the busiest human being in the world, right? He did so many different things. He was the head of state. He was the imam. He was the scholar, the giving fatwas. He was the person providing condolences. He was an army general. He was, you name it, right? He was a teacher. He was everything. He was a father. He was a husband. And so the Prophet ﷺ would make sure he takes some of that time for himself, for example, right, at night, and he would actually kind of encourage his wives to do the same, right, to take that time out. He would sometimes wake him up in the middle of the night to take that time out, whether for acts of worship or whatever the case is. He would it was understandable that they would actually, for example, his wives would visit each other, right? They would send food to each other, to do something for each other, that company. That's obviously some sort of a me time. He would make sure that the needs are met, similar to make sure that his needs are met. And so it's more of a cooperation, right? If you look at our family as a corporation, that we all cooperate together for the health of our family and for success, then our mentality becomes completely different, right? It's not more of me, right? It's how can we help everybody type of deal, right? At least I'd hope that's what it's it should be, inshallah.
So, as I'm listening to this and reflecting and contemplating on it, and we call this session Boredom, Stress, and Me Time. So as I'm listening to this, I think the more me time that we allocate in balance, right? It shouldn't be completely all me time, because otherwise then it throws everything out of whack, right? But let's say you're taking the appropriate me time will actually relieve the stress and the boredom, actually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There's a trickle down effect or trickle up effect, maybe, on that.
Yes. So part of me time, by the way, is one of the things I like about this me time is that you sometimes get the chance to treat yourself, right? When we treat ourselves, it makes us feel good, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have to, piggyback on your kids to treat yourself, they're getting ice cream, it's okay for you to get ice cream too, right? Some sort of a treat. Just be careful, don't eat too much of the ice cream, watch our health and things like that. But surprisingly, ice cream can be healthier than we think, especially if it's just one flavor, like vanilla or something else, not not the crazy, like, triple fudge, I don't know, mango, weird kind of other stuff. No, that gets way too much. But it's okay to cheer ourselves. Like, this is beneficial for us, inshallah. And it does, like, it does go into the stress, coping with the stress aspect. Because we like, when we obviously, like, in a new situation we're in, we're faced with different things in life. But a lot of the mechanisms that we can cope with stress is taking that me time, right? It is taking that individual things, even if it's exercising, right? To do things that hobbies, for example, right? To kind of disengage from the world around us and to engage in something, a hobby that we would prefer. But obviously, as Muslims, there's another dimension always associated with dealing with stress, right? Sometimes we're stressed because we feel that we don't have control anymore, right? And a lot of times it comes from that. But the funny thing is, who said we're supposed to have control over everything, right? As Muslims, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's in control, right? He subhanahu wa ta'ala is the driving force. And so we should be comfortable with that to some extent, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, he's the person, he's like subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's the one that's driving everything, then shouldn't we trust him, right? We have to be comfortable with that aspect idea that I don't have control over every circumstances. I can do my best with whatever I have in front of me, but leave everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is where the tawakkul, the depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala factor comes in. And subhanAllah, like, this is a beautiful thing about religion. That in itself is a huge stress reliever, right? That you feel that you can depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That there is some other individual who has a more higher power, right? That you are able to lose yourself to, or depend on, that that you can lean, subhanAllah, in the beautiful dua, alja'tu dhahri ilayk, like when you go to sleep, one of the dua Prophet would say, he says, alja'tu, which means I refer my back to you, which means I'm leaning on you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a beautiful dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the story of Yunus alayhi salam, right, when he was taken into the stomach of the I guess they say whale, right, which is kind of funny because hut in Arabic means fish, by the way, but they translate it into whale. It's a huge fish, obviously. But what did he do, right? He depended on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the only thing he did was remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He kept making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in itself is a stress relief, right? That you engage in a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You talk to him. Even doing that out loud is beautiful, right? Us starting to engage in different acts of worship. This is part of our religion. Right? By the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hearts become peaceful, tranquil. It's kind of funny that nowadays, I guess because of the secular society we live in, they don't want to refer to this as active worship. They call it meditation, right? Part of the treatment for stress relief is they take some time to meditate, right? Do some yoga, do some other stuff. SubhanAllah, we do all these things, right? But it's just important for us to kind of reflect. Yes, it's an act of worship, and it's there for a reason, right? We need it, right? It connects us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it creates this beautiful balance in our life, stability, right? That helps relieve all the stress and makes it much easier. But also when we're sometimes we get stressed because of some of the calamities that befall us. And in that case, we have to, believing in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps relieve that, right? Because then you know that Allah decreed this, so whatever would miss me was never going to afflict me in the first place. And whatever afflicts me was never going to miss me. So you just accept it. But you also have a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is called husnul dhann, right? That this is happening for a reason, either to cleanse sins or elevate sin ranks. And so this kind of relieves that stress aspect of it. There's subhanAllah, there's a lot of things to do with it, right? So, and it kind of goes into a lot of time with the me time. This was I decided to start with that also. It was a kind of good transition. But that me time, when you engage in acts of worship, that will stress relieve your stress. I always kind of remember the story of the Prophet ﷺ, in the Battle of the Trench. I don't know if you know the story, Sheikh Arif. I hope you do. طيب. so the trench, so the Battle of the Trench, this happened in the 5th year of Hijrah, if I remember correctly. This is when the people of Quraysh with their allies, and then from the different tribes of Ghatafan, they created the largest army ever on the Arabian Peninsula to ever attack any individual or any town, which is 10,000 soldiers. And so as when they come into the Prophet ﷺ, they obviously dug the trench by the Shura of Salman al-Farisi. He kind of gave that consultation. But what's interesting is that they stayed under siege for an entire month. Okay, not just that. So this was from the north, from the behind, from the back inside of the city. They were betrayed by Bani Qurayza, right? So they had a treaty with Bani Qurayza. Bani Qurayza broke that treaty and sided with Quraysh. And so now the Muslims are in the middle, stuck between enemies from the front and from behind. This is a stressful time for everybody, because if they go into the Medina, very much the Muslims will be eliminated, right? I always remember the reaction of the Prophet ﷺ, right? At that integral moment towards the end where everybody's kind of almost like, tired and exhausted, the Prophet ﷺ was so calm, right, and peaceful. And he was just praying, right? And then when he finished the prayer, he would look and ask his companions, who among you would go to the enemy's territory to tell us what they're doing, right? Obviously, at that point, there was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent cold winds and a storm, and so they were hungry and starving. They didn't want to go out. And so the Prophet ﷺ just kind of prayed again, right? And then when he finished, he asked the same question so calmly, right? It's that peace and tranquility that sometimes, subhanAllah, the act of worship can help us engage and deal with stress, right? Because it gives us that confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really, this is the most important factor as Muslims that would help stress, that would relieve all the other things about me time and exercises. This is an addition, right, that helps us cope with it. Allah Alam.
I think you're telling us some really good things here for us. And as you were talking, Dr. Ahmed, when you're talking about the me time and that connection with Allah, what came to my mind was the Hajj of Prayer.
Yes.
And right, it's something. All the prayers are unique, right? But there is something about the Hajj where you wake up in the last third of the night, and where you're not thinking of anything but your relationship with Allah.
SubhanAllah, you're right. Out of all the prayers, that nightly prayer has a special flavor to it. You really feel that relationship, that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everybody else is asleep, right? You're by yourself, right? You're just you, and you're engaging in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's amazing, to be honest. I wish that I could say that we have the energy to engage in it a bit more. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who pray tahajjud and qiyam al-layl. The Prophet really advised it, right? He said it was the way of the pious people before you, and it draws you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is why, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that part of the night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would descend and ask, who is it that wants dua that I fulfill him, or has a need I'll fulfill for them. He would ask that is because it's truly a person who wants to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get up at that time, right? I'm not saying that we don't want to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this person really wants it, right? This person really desires it. And we see that, we see that even in anybody, right? If they, I know I shouldn't be talking. Hopefully, inshallah, my kids are not listening to this. But when they wake up early in the morning, right, voluntarily, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I know they want to do something, right? It's that driving force that they wanted so much to get up. Other than that, get up at school time or it's class time, they're very sluggish, right? And so it's a matter, inshallah, building ourselves to want this, to desire this relationship, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Dr. Ahmed, I'm going to pause here for a second because I do want to go back to the chat here, and I want to read some of the comments and ideas that came from there, because I think they're really good. One person shared, their Quran teacher used to say, this is for the me part of the session, me time. My Quran teacher used to say, even the car needs maintenance to run smoothly. So she compared that to the importance of me time.
Yeah. That is true. No, it's true.
So that was a good one. Dr. Kessler mentioned a couple of things here. He's very active in this chat, mashallah. He's giving a lot of ideas. Gardening, he has 4. Gardening, have a family halakha, Quran translation and tafsir, that's number 2. Doing beads, playing board games, and hold on, I'm just reading through it. Number 4, he's so funny. He made a joke here. He's like, a scary and dangerous activity such as grocery shopping.
Going out there, it's you're going out to the battlefield and coming back again.
Yeah, there you go. I know. People are getting into their armor just to go out now. Alhamdulillah. What else do I see here? take kids to the backyard and let them exert their energy. Um, Creating decorations for and activities for Ramadan.
Hmm.
Ramadan's upon us.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're really good suggestions. Thank you, everyone. I hope I didn't miss anything, but and feel free to keep chiming in for those that are on. But that's what I quickly just read off, and I thought those were really good and worth sharing. Dr. Ahmed, is there anything you want to say and like kind of closing remarks here in regards to the topic of boredom, stress, and me time?
No, inshallah, it just inshallah, like, like always, like, we can, it's good to have something that we focus on, whether it's a phrase or a teaching from the Prophet ﷺ. But we will go through different circumstances in our life. Some are good, some are bad. But one thing we should always remember, uh, how we should react to these, should be based on the hadith of Prophet ﷺ when he said, it's amazing the affair of the Muslim or the believer, right? They like, it's amazing the affair of the believer if he, إذا أصابته سراء, right? If he is أصابته, which means afflicted, right? If he's أصابته سراء, which means something that's pleasing, right? If he's afflicted with something that's pleasing, shakara, like, shakar. So he thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we're talking about thanked over here, it means that you're utilizing this in something that is permissible, something that will get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not using it for disobedience. And so this is how we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Prophet said, then he would thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it would be better for him. وإذا أصابته ضراء, and he's afflicted with a hardship, right, a difficulty, sabr, right, that he's patient. فكان خيرا له. So that'll be good for him. Because in both cases, they're acts of worship. If you're thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's acts of worship. Whether by your tongue or your actions, obviously it's an act of worship. It's a showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are afflicted with hardship, you're patient. And patience is a act of worship. And I'm not talking about patience over here, like, so when we're talking about patience, we're talking about beautiful patience, right? The patience that does not include complaining, right? Why is this happening, right? No, but patience really, like, think of Ayyub alayhi salam, right? When he was afflicted for so many years, in the end, when he made dua, it was so beautiful, right? Rabbi inni massani ad-dur, right? Hardship has touched me, right? Massani is kind of like, touch me, even though we know that subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tested him by that he wasn't able to move, he lost his children, he lost his wealth. To any of us, this is something that is huge. But to him, when he made that dua, he was so patient. He didn't even complain. He just made dua to Allah ta'ala. He said that hardship has touched me, right? وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, and you're the most merciful. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed that all from him. That's all it requires, subhanAllah, just that patience. Because as Muslims, we know nothing lasts. Whatever hardship we're facing will go away, right? Similar to whatever bounty we have will go away, right? It's just how the world has been created. And so everything is momentary. And so, inshallah, anything that we go into our life, just kind of remember this hadith of Prophet, right? If we're afflicted with something that is good, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we're afflicted with something of difficulty, then we are patient, right? And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of us, to give us the insight to always take advantage of whatever circumstance that we're in a way, inshallah, that will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us from those who are at the end of that road better believers, ones who took advantage of this time to build further hereafter. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to kind of protect us from the circumstances we're in, and to elevate us from the stress of this difficulty, and to remove this disease from above us, and to allow us to return back to our normal lives. Ameen.
Ameen. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. Here, before we close out, just a few things I did want to mention to the community here is, and for those that are joining us, I'll give you guys a sneak peek on what to expect tomorrow. Because I want to thank the people that are joining us live. They deserve some extra bonus of knowing things before other people know, right? Before the emails go out or before the social media post. So Surah Al-Kahf tomorrow, we know, everybody knows that we post every Friday at 12 p.m. a different person reciting. So I'm very happy to announce tomorrow's recitation will be from Sheikh Mamdou. So be ready for that. It's a beautiful recitation. I already listened to it. I'm going to listen to it again tomorrow, inshallah. So I'm really excited. So I wanted to share that with our live audience. You guys get some bonus for that. As I said in the beginning, do what you can to support your masjid. We need 100% participation. #OneCommunity. Tomorrow's the Quran Academy Quran Night. That's going to be awesome. I got to meet some of them virtually yesterday, so I'm really excited for that program. Make sure everybody joins and attends. And again, like I mentioned, we're working on finalizing the nighttime programming for ISCJ live stream for the month of Ramadan. I think everyone will be very happy with what the final product and programming that come up, which also includes Dr. Ahmed, inshallah. Dr. Ahmed, again, a sneak peek for our live audience. Dr. Ahmed and Sheikh Ashur will be doing a daily live program in the evening. More details to come, but a lot of exciting things, inshallah. So with that, we'll close it. We really appreciate everyone that joined. Keep everyone in the du'as, and we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum, ISCJ, and thank you again, Dr. Ahmed.
بارك فيك، جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum salam.